We have officially started recording, and uh, two people are streaming, and so we have a couple of people already on board. Good evening, everyone. Welcome aboard. And,
Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining. We'll just give another minute or two, let folks hop on here. Appreciate you giving your Monday evening to us here at Solar United Neighbors. Feel free to put in the chat where you are viewing us from. I am Benjamin Hoyne. I'm in Richmond, Virginia. I'll let my colleague Sakrit introduce himself.
Sure can. Good evening, everyone. I'm Sukrit Mishra. I am the DC Program Director. I also work and support our solar co-ops in Virginia with Ben, and I'm based out of the district. And glad to have you all here. And Ben, I think we're good to go now. So
Okay. All right,
you have the floor.
So yeah, so we've got things covered. So Chris in the District of Columbia. I am in Richmond, and most or all of you all are in Hampton Roads. So first and foremost, again, welcome and thank you for joining. My name again is Ben Hoyne with Virginia Solar United Neighbors. Been with Sun for just about a year. Thrilled to have you on board. This is our final information session for the solar and EV charger co-op, and we were originally supposed to do this in person tonight in Virginia Beach, but the venue got double booked, so they asked if we could pivot, and so we did. So I know a few of you signed up for that, so thanks for moving to a virtual setting with us. Appreciate it. We'll be here for just about an hour. I hope to get you out of here right around 7. Certainly have plenty of time for questions and answers. You can always use the chat. Also letting you know that the webinar is going to be recorded. So Chris can be monitoring the chat, and I'll take a few breaks as we go along to check the chat and questions and that sort of stuff. So what is Solar United Neighbors? We are a vendor-neutral national 501c3 nonprofit organization. We're not affiliated with any company, any solar company, any product, panel, etc. Really, we rely entirely upon community engagement and involvement. We have programs officially in 13 states, districts, and provinces. We are in Puerto Rico, District of Columbia, and 11 states in the U.S. We also help people nationwide through our national help desk, and we can certainly answer questions on a wide variety of residential solar related topics. And we bring together people like tonight to address barriers to information, red tape, technology, policy, and so much more. And we strive to represent solar owners and consumers, as well as prospective solar owners and consumers. Solar United Neighbors got its start in 2007, pretty organically, actually. Our founder, Anya Schoolman, there in the photo, her son, Walter, on the left, and Diego on the right. Walter's her son, Diego's a neighbor, friend. They came home one day and they said, "Mom, we have to go solar." Well, Anya looked into it, and in 2007, Washington, D.C., found it to be extremely complicated. Even solar installers didn't really know the rules, the permitting process, the cost, technology. And so Anya said, if we're going to do this, we need to get a group together of our neighbors and help, help kind of counteract the barriers that we're facing. So they went around their neighborhood. They got about 100 people to join this loose-knit buying group, which is what we continue to do today. And ultimately, after 2 years of digging into the issues, 50 neighborhood homes in the Mount Pleasant neighborhood of Washington, D.C. went solar, and that was the Mount Pleasant Solar Co-op. And so, as you can imagine, after this significant undertaking, the Mount Pleasant Solar Co-op started to get press attention and other things, and folks started calling Anya and said, "How can we do this? We want to do this too," whether that's in Washington, D.C. or beyond. So Solar United Neighbors just really organically began that way, and eventually Anya was able to quit her day job and do this full time. And so now, 15 years later, again, we have members throughout the 50 United States and beyond. We've run over 315 solar co-ops across the country, and we have just about 50 staff across 4 time zones, actually 5 time zones now with Puerto Rico. And so really we're staffed to satisfy the needs of the residential solar consumers and advocates across the country. Our impact on the ground, as I mentioned, now 13 states, territories, districts. We've helped over 6,000 families go solar, and that's installed capacity of 54 megawatts, which is a significant, utility scale solar power plant. There are solar power plants being built right now that are smaller than 54 megawatts, and so Solar United Neighbors collectively has built the equivalent of one large solar power plant. In Virginia alone, we've helped over 1,100 families go solar, and I think we're up to almost 9 megawatts now of installed capacity. And additionally, we know that rooftop solar lets communities invest locally, creates good local jobs, and brings control of the energy system within our reach. And we're working on a new energy system that everyone can participate in, one that's fair and equitable. So here's our theory of change. First and foremost, we help folks go solar. Again, we are a 501c3 nonprofit. So we bring folks together like y'all and others, and we help with new and existing technology. We do our co-ops, we're installer and technology neutral. Additionally, we help folks join together and break down barriers. So we have a lot of resources. We have a Virginia-specific listserv and Virginia-specific Facebook group, and I'll ask Sakrit to drop those in the chat. We also do social events. We had an event in May or so up in Northern Virginia with our solar co-op that happened there. We had one in Richmond recently in October to celebrate things there. And we'll be doing one in Hampton Roads, excuse me, in the springtime as this co-op, not only winds down, but the installations get completed. So, and then finally, as we get more folks together, we fight for energy rights. Mostly we do that at the General Assembly in Richmond, but additionally we do that with localities, municipalities. We're working on some issues, permanent issues in Prince William County right now, for example. And so we also, have passed legislation to make it more difficult for homeowners associations to restrict your access to solar, increase support for net metering and other things. And we are a nonpartisan policy organization. We know that solar is free, and the government or monopoly utility company should not restrict your access to it. And so as more laws get passed, more people have access to go solar, and the cycle continues. So real quickly, what we'll cover today, we got how solar co-ops work. We'll talk about solar technology, batteries and EV chargers, and the economics of solar. Let me pause real quick. I see, just want to make sure nothing's in the chat that's pressing. It's great.
So far, so good. I've just dropped some resources, but nothing in the chat.
Great, thank you. So why join a solar co-op? Why are we here? First and foremost, it's really a voluntary buying group that leverages discounts. So again, imagine 50 to 100 friends that say, hey, we all want to go solar. What kind of deal can you give us? That's really what a solar co-op is. And our job is to give you the tools to make an informed decision, right? We have a vested interest in supporting you throughout this process. We also connect you with fellow solar enthusiasts in the area. It's important to note that the group has a beginning and an end. It is a limited time to get the co-op specific pricing. It does not go on in perpetuity. And we're actually coming up to the end of the kind of initial phase of the group, and that'll be just before Thanksgiving. So we got another week or so to join the co-op. That's kind of to put your name in the hopper, so to speak, and get part of the process and get access to the specific pricing. And just so we have a co-op guide that Sakrit can drop in the chat if you want to read more about that. And then in terms of how the process works, this is really a stakeholder-driven process. We encourage people to participate in it throughout, and learning is a really big part of the process. So in theory, in months 1 and 2, or maybe where y'all are at, you're kind of learning about solar. You can attend a solar co-op information session. Hopefully you sign up for the solar co-op. And again, we encourage you to spread the word. We actually launched this co-op, I believe in July, right around the 4th of July. And then as we moved forward, we selected an installer. So we put out an RFP for various bids in the Hampton Roads area of solar installers. We had a group of members of this solar co-op. So right now there's 80 people in the co-op as an example. I think we had 4 or 5 or 6, I can't remember, it was back in August, 4 or 5 or 6 folks that spent a few hours on a weeknight on Zoom, kind of pouring over the various bids that we got, and ultimately choosing Convert Solar, which is a local Virginia Beach solar company, solar installer, as the installer for this group. And so that way, the members of the co-op all have access to kind of the menu of options that were included in that bid. Now we're kind of in the third section here, months 4 to 8, the sign up deadline, last chance to join. As I mentioned, that'll be just about a week or so. And then once you join, there'll be a few things that happen. You'll get contacted by Convert Solar. You'll get a customized proposal for your home. There's a couple different solar panel options and that sort of thing, and you will be able to talk to Convert and get the specific panel options and price point that you want. And then you'll have 30 days after you receive that proposal from Convert to sign the contract. And that's an agreement between you and Convert Solar, the solar installer. We're not affiliated with that contract. Certainly, we're happy to help review that contract for you, or a contract you were to get, or an offer you were to get from some other installer outside the co-op. Happy to do that for you as well. And then ultimately, if you choose to move forward and sign the contract, you would get installation installed, I believe. Certainly, they're scheduling several months out, and so we'd be looking into the winter, certainly into 2023, which is so probably 3 months out or something like that. And then, as I mentioned, we'll have a party in the spring once everybody has had their systems installed. And then as we're moving into solar technology, again, just real quick, Sucrit, if there's any questions I need to address.
Nope, you're good to go.
All right. So we're talking about solar panels today, solar photovoltaic, or PV, which converts solar energy to electricity. PV's, the basic technology we're using today. There's also solar thermal out there, especially in Virginia Beach, where folks might be more familiar with that. And that's for heating hot water. And that's not what the solar co-op's about, not what we're talking about today. So the basics of a solar panel, you can see on the left from the diagram there, the image, that the solar cell in the middle there is really well protected with glass and a frame. Panels historically have been about 3 feet by 5 feet. Now some of them are about 4 by 6, generally about 40 pounds. But the important thing to note about panels is they are measured in wattage. And also it's important to note that the solar panels generate electricity in direct current, or DC. So those are the 2 important things to note. It's measured in watts, and they produce energy in direct current. And now this becomes important because your system, your solar array, right, multiple panels, is going to be measured in kilowatts. And the reason for that is because panels nowadays, most of them are in the 3 to 400 watts range. And so once you have 3 panels or 4 panels, you're into the 1,000 watt range, which becomes a kilowatt. And so important to note that your system array is going to be measured in kilowatts, or kW. So when you get a proposal from Convert Solar, it's going to say 5 kW or 10 kW. I think our average size is about 8 or 9 kW. So it's probably going to be between 5 and 15 kW most likely. And that's just important to know. It doesn't really matter how many panels you have. As an example, in this illustration, there's 12 panels. Those could be 300 watt panels as an example, and that would be 3,600 watts or 3.6 kW. Alternatively, you could have 9 panels of 400 watt panels, and that would be, again, 9 400 watt panels would be 3,600 watts or 3.6 kW. So don't really want to, it doesn't really matter if I have 9 panels or 12 panels. It matters what's the wattage, because that's what it can produce. Obviously, it does matter when you have space limitations and those kind of things, and that's where the higher efficiency panels can come into play. If you've got space concerns, but if you've got a large roof that can meet whatever your needs are panel wise, you might look at the lower efficiency panels. They're usually a little more affordable than the higher efficiency panels. So it really just depends on your specific needs. Now, the other thing to understand the difference, there's kilowatts. Again, that's kind of the power of your system. And then there's kilowatt hours, or kWh. And that's just a measurement of kilowatts produced over time. And it's important to note there, like when you get your bill, presumably from Dominion or your utility provider, it's going to be measured in kWh, kilowatt hours. And that's how much electricity you actually consumed in a month, 1,000 kilowatt hours or whatever it might be. So just important to be able to understand the differences there. And then in addition to panels, a really important thing is your inverter. What the inverter does is it converts the direct current energy that your panel generates to alternating current, or AC. And this is really important because it conditions the energy for use in your home. Your home uses alternating current. And so the inverter, again, preps that energy for use in your home. Additionally, the inverters are kind of like the brains of your system, especially when you get to micro inverters and DC optimizers, which are what most folks are using nowadays. The string inverters on the left are really for large installs or ground mounts. So most of you will be getting micro inverters, DC optimizers. With those, they kind of monitor your production. They can tell if your production goes down. If you have a micro inverter or a DC optimizer, you can get an app on your phone. It'll become your kind of newest favorite toy, where you can see the production of your panels in real time, or 15-minute increments. And with micro inverters, you'd actually be able to see a panel by panel level. So let's say you have a dozen panels up there, and you're monitoring your production day after day, and then all of a sudden one day you notice it goes down for some reason. You can see, oh, panel number 7 is all of a sudden not connected anymore, something like that. That makes maintenance or service really easy. So you'll be able to talk to Convert about all that. They certainly have microinverters as part of the co-op, but really cool stuff. To the microinverters and really the brain behind the panels. After you get your panels and your inverters picked out, a racking system, how to fasten the panels to your roof is important. This is an asphalt shingle roof, which is the most common roof type we have here in Virginia. It's really straightforward racking and attachment for the solar arrays. Additionally, they can be pretty easily attached to a standing seam metal roof seen here, and then also a rubber membrane roof. Those are all good for solar panels. The one roof type that is not good for solar panels is slate. If you have a slate roof, I don't think the co-op actually is working on slate. I guess I would have to double check, but most installers won't work on slate, or if they do, there's a serious upcharge because it's really fragile and it's very complex installation. Another thing you're going to need to know, and your solar installer, Convert Solar, is going to know is how your electrical panel looks, and so they're actually going to ask for a photo. And don't be weirded out by that. They're going to want to make sure that there's room for the breaker in your panel. It's really a simple connection for the solar array to go into your panel. And if your panel is outdated, they'll recognize that pretty quickly. Also, you're going to know if your roof is a good fit for solar. All right, so we talked about how to put the solar on there. We got to make sure it's suitable. And so there's a couple major factors that we looked at. It's a bit more of an art than a science, but in general, we're in the northern hemisphere, so we want to have a somewhat facing of the equator to optimize the production for our energy generation. So in an ideal world, if you won the solar lottery, you would have a south-facing roof, but that's not all that common. And so you can also have a west-facing roof. That's really good because it gets that good afternoon sun. But east-facing roofs will work well as well. South by southeast. You can have even north by northwest, or west by northwest can work good. What you kind of want to steer clear of is just a straight north-facing roof, or maybe northeast-facing roof, because that you won't necessarily generate enough solar electricity to make the investment worthwhile. Secondly, you want to check on the shading, and we'll do this. We'll do a quick assessment of your roof, and then Convert will give it a detailed assessment. And you want to make sure there's no significant shading on the roof part where the solar generation would take place, especially during those kind of peak hours, like 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. And then you want to have enough space to mount panels. Usually need at least a couple hundred square foot of clean space up there. And chimneys and dormers and gables can be problematic, and so you want to have a fair bit of clear space for the solar array to be. And then you don't need a new roof. You do need a newer roof that doesn't have any major damage. About half the cost of the solar is labor, and so what you wouldn't want to do, for example, is to put a solar array on your roof and then 5 years later have to take it down, get it stored while you wait for the roofers to come out and repair your roof, and then have to put it back up. You'd be spending a lot of money and labor unnecessarily. So we recommend having about 10 years of roof life remaining. So if your roof's not a good fit, you can also look at a ground mounted system. This can be challenging to do, kind of if you're in Norfolk or something like that. But if you're out of the city center and have a bit more space, it could be a good thing to do. A couple benefits of a ground mounted system: you can pick which way you're gonna face it, so you can more kind of efficiently orient it towards the sun. So that'll increase the production, but it will cost you a bit more money. You can see the racking system here that has to be built, right? So that's parts and labor, right, to do that. And then additionally, you need to trench electrical wires back to the house or back to the meter. And that costs per foot. And so we don't really recommend doing it usually more than 50 to 100 feet to the nearest meter, because the cost can add up. And so that's trenching, that's putting the wires in the ground and then covering back up. Some of the frequently asked questions we get, what are the warranties? Usually panels have a 25-year production warranty. They're going to maintain solid efficiency. They don't really have any moving parts. There's not a lot that can fail or degrade. It's really industry standard now that you should expect at a minimum a 25-year lifespan of your solar array. Usually they have anywhere from a 10 to 25-year manufacturer defect. And so that would be something that doesn't affect the production of the solar panel, but maybe like a piece of metal hanging off the side or something like that. The inverters usually have a 10 to 25-year warranty. And then there's an installer warranty or workmanship warranty, generally in the 3 to 10-year range. That would be on something like a roof penetration for the racking system or conduit run. The good news about that is usually if something's going to fail, it'll do so pretty quickly. Homeowners insurance. The solar array does become part of your home, so you're certainly going to want to contact your insurer and add this to your homeowner's insurance. You can call them and get quotes. The industry standard is that either your rates will not go up or they won't go up very significantly. If you do find that your insurer's quoting you a significant increase, we encourage you to shop around, because again, that's not the industry standard. In terms of maintenance, these are really maintenance free. You do not need to get up on your roof. We do not recommend you get up on your roof. You don't need to clean them. The rain will clean them. The snow will fall off when it comes. They're hail resistant. Again, as I mentioned, the online monitoring that we have with the app on your phone. So really, you do not need to get up on your roof and do anything. HOAs, as I mentioned, we have helped pass legislation back in 2019, 2020 to make it more challenging for HOAs to restrict your ability to go solar. And so that was part of our fighting for energy rights. And if you're in a historic district like Williamsburg or something like that, we encourage you to chat with Convert Solar, because they certainly have experience going through the permitting process there. Some important terminology. So kind of a quick recap we have here. So the solar array or the solar system is the panels that are on your roof. And then they flow into an inverter. And then that conditions the energy for use in your home. And then it goes to your electrical panel. And first and foremost, that any solar energy generated will go to your home to power your home. And then if there is extra, it'll go out through your meter and ideally be pushed onto those electrical wires, which we commonly refer to as the electrical grid or simply the grid. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. That brings us to net metering. So to kind of dig into this diagram, this illustration a bit more. As I mentioned, so the panels generate electricity, passes through the inverter, goes to your panel, your electrical panel, and anything that's produced instantaneously will go to your home. And if there is sufficient excess, it'll get pushed out onto the grid, run through your meter, and kind of like your meter will almost spin backwards. In theory, doesn't actually spin backwards, but yeah, your meter will spin backwards, and so it'll kind of push electricity on the grid, and you will get a credit of that, in real time. And then at night or on a rainy day, as you're using electricity from the grid, from the electrical wires there, your meter will spin forward. And so there's kind of a constant calculation going on. And let's say your system's generating 50% of the energy you need at any one time. So your house will take 50% of the energy from the solar panels and 50% of the energy from the electrical grid, and you will have 100% of the power that you need, instantaneously. So it's a constant conversation between your meter and the inverter and the panel. Every millisecond they're in communication to make sure that your house is powered at the exact right level. And so in terms of net metering, again, it's a calculation of the net in the meter, which it flows onto the grid, flows off to the grid at the end of each month. And so kind of almost, so it's what's the total electricity that was either produced and put onto the grid or pulled off the grid in a month. And, in an ideal scenario, you've timed it perfectly and you're right at even, but there's going to be some months where if you have a full-size system, you actually could generate a surplus, usually in the spring and the fall when you're not running your HVAC units, your heating and your cooling, because those are the biggest electricity hogs. And so in the spring and the fall, you might generate a surplus. You actually can carry those over, kind of like rollover minutes that we used to use. And then maybe in the summer and the winter, when you're running your AC or you're running your heat, you might have a deficit. And then at the end of 12 months, at the end of a year, that's when they really figure out, where are you at on a 12-month cycle? And your electric utility, Dominion or anyone else, doesn't really want you to have a surplus at the end of 12 months. It's okay to have one from one month to the next, but on a yearly basis, they don't want you to kind of just carry credits over in perpetuity. But the good news about net metering and about how all this works is you don't have to, get a full system size. At my house, as an example, I have just about a 5 kilowatt system, and it covers, 2/3 of my needs or so. So almost never do I have a surplus. Maybe on a rare time when we're out of town and it's the spring or something like that, we might have a surplus. But the good news is that's fine. That's worked for my budget and my family, and then I'm able to pull electricity off the grid as needed as well. And so just a quick recap: net metering is a really critical tool for rooftop solar, getting this fair credit. It's a 1-to-1 credit. So for the electricity you're putting onto the grid and the electricity you're pulling off the grid, that has the same value, right? So it's not like you're being charged 50 cents on the dollar or anything like that. It's the same value in electricity going onto the grid as coming off. As I mentioned, there's going to be daily or seasonal surpluses. It's that annual billing cycle is really important. Also should note it's not a January 1st date. It's actually based off whenever your system was installed. Doesn't really matter, right? Whether it's March or November, it's a 12-month cycle. And then, you can just be a percentage of your annual offset. And so how that plays out in kind of practical terms on your electricity bill imagine you consume 300 kilowatt hours in a month. Doesn't matter when you consume that. You produce 250 kilowatt hours a month. Doesn't matter if that was used in your home or put on the grid. The difference in that is 50 kilowatt hours, and your bill would reflect that you would solely be charged for the 50 kilowatt hours, plus a fixed connection charge, which Dominion territory is about $6.58 plus tax, so $7 to $8 a month. And so even if you had a surplus, right, you would still pay that $7 to $8 a month. And this is really important as we factor in the return on the investment later on in the presentation. This is a key place where you're paying off your investment is by the money you're not spending on your electricity bill. Just wanted to stop there and see if there's any questions that need to address it, Crit.
Hey, Ben. So we do have one question in the chat, and I'm happy to answer it, but it would have turned into an essay in the chat. But the question is, approximately how long might it take to pay for one system? And this includes the cost of installation, setup, and then using solar energy to cool and heat the home. And my short answer was, well, it depends on your system size and your utility bills, but I'll let you elaborate on that.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, each case is unique. I think we generally say 8 to 11 years, and that's a pretty conservative estimate in terms of really it's based on the rising electricity rates, right? And so I'll get into this more in a bit, but yeah, I'll say 8 to 12 years. We'll get into it more later. But if you're looking at a 25-year solar investment, that in essence means for half of the time you have a solar array, you're in essence having free electricity. All right, so moving on, we'll talk about power outages and batteries. And so this is really important to know that when the grid goes down, when the electrical wires go down, when there's a power outage in your community, you will not have electricity simply because you have solar panels. And it's counterintuitive. I want to say again, when the grid goes down, the power goes out, you will not have electricity. You won't have power at your house. And the reason for that is really important. It's a safety thing, right? We talked about electricity from your home flowing onto the grid. Well, imagine the power goes out and then, and it's out for a few days and a hurricane comes through, what have you. And the next day is sunny. So your home's generating electricity, sending it onto the grid, and there's somebody working on the line trying to repair that. They're going to get electrocuted. So it's a safety mechanism. Your inverters, again, talking to the meter. And so once they sense that there's a power outage, automatically your solar panels will stop producing electricity, and they will just sit there idle until the grid is back on. And once they do that, the inverters will sense it and they'll start back up again. So if you do want to have power during an outage, you have to have batteries. And so what that does is, in essence, you would create an island or a closed loop electrical circuit between solar panels and batteries that would kind of, in essence, idle themselves off the grid during an outage. And then you would be able to use solar panels during the day, batteries in the evening, ideally all night, and then replenish those batteries during the day as they generate sunshine. Now, the thing to know about that is often you're not going to be able to power your entire home simply on solar panels and batteries, especially HVAC, right? Heat and air conditioning, unless you had an extremely energy efficient space, small room, something like that with a mini split, you might be able to generate enough for that with a large system. But you should assume you'll be able to get a couple outlets going. You probably have Wi-Fi, coffee maker, those kind of things, a couple lights, which is nice, is something, but you wouldn't have enough to power your whole home. And so just kind of a note that, since 2017 or so, power outages have grown in the number in terms of major events. And so something I'm sure everybody here is familiar with. But we just wanted to stress again that counterintuitive, when the power goes out, your solar panels will stop generating. as well. Now, if you do want power, because you have something like a critical load at your home, like a well pump or medical equipment, it might make sense to get batteries. They're very expensive right now, and frankly, the supply chain's very challenging. Batteries are competing with electric vehicles. They're competing with grid utility storage and many other things for the supply chains. And so it's really hard to get batteries. They're very expensive. So definitely it's something you could look into. They are available via the co-op, I believe. But certainly it might be you get your panels and then 6 or 12 months later you get your batteries. They're hard to get right now. If you want to learn more about batteries, we have an entire webinar, entire web page about batteries, and Sukrit can drop the guide into the chat. As mentioned, I think an hour-long webinar on batteries on our website. So yeah, and Sukrit, unless there's any other questions, I'll keep moving forward.
Just one question. So is the connection cost monthly for the net metering meter from Dominion? I mean, I know it is, but I'm just trying to, I do not recall the costs. I mean, I know there was a fixed cost every month.
Yes, so the fixed connection charge, which is more or less for having access to the grid, right, is, as I mentioned, I think $6.58 plus tax, so like $7 or $8 a month, depending on your local tax. That's in Dominion service territory. If you're in a co-op territory or something like that, maybe you're in Northampton County or elsewhere, it can be different. I don't know what it is in Northampton County at A&N, but I know it's even $20 or $30 in Shenandoah Valley, as an example. So Dominion's is pretty low. Some other places are a bit higher, and that's just your basic connection charge. Doesn't matter how much electricity you use. You're going to have to pay that for being connected to the grid.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Another thing you can do as part of this solar co-op is install an electric vehicle charger. We really like to view solar energy as your local fuel source, driving on sunshine. Just to give you an idea of pairing a solar with an EV charger, it doesn't really matter how you cut it. There's different numbers out there for just about every source. But if you're on Dominion, it's 11 cents a kilowatt hour. Maybe you could spend $400 on fuel. Some say it's $1 a gallon to power an EV. This is obviously significantly cheaper than gas at a gas station, petroleum, right? And so just taking advantage of the co-op and installing an EV charger. This basic level 2 EV charger, which for your home, there's kind of generally two types of EV charging. There's a level 1, which is a slow charge. It's 120 volt outlet, kind of just your standard outlet, or a 240 volt outlet, which is what this would be for. That's like your dryer outlet. And you can have faster charging speeds. So the level 2 charger, usually comes with about a 3-year warranty. If you are thinking about installing an EV charger, just some things to consider. You might want to think about where you're going to do it. Is it going to be inside, outside, or do you have a garage, or is it, you're parking on an alley, a wall mount pedestal? Where's your electrical service, right? So similarly, where's your panel, and how far is your electrical panel from your EV charger? Because you're gonna have to run electrical wire. Is somebody poking through holes in the wall, or is it really close? And that sort of stuff can add to the cost. And then you're going to need space, breaker space, 30 to 50 amps in your breaker. Best practice nowadays is Wi-Fi compatible network capability. Also think about how long your cord's going to be, and some other factors as well. And in terms of the charger costs, usually they're kind of $500 to $700, and then installation could be a bit more. There is a federal tax credit that's 30% off the cost of the EV charger up to $1,000. All right, this is our final section. We'll move on to solar economics. Sukrit, unless there's anything we need to address.
You're good to go. No questions.
All right, thanks. So as you can see, since the 1970s to today, the costs of solar have dropped tremendously. Just since 2010, they've dropped about 73%. As we mentioned, solar is really a long-term investment, right? A 25-year lifespan, at least, no moving parts, nothing really to break down. It's also a great way to hedge against rising utility rates. Generally, rates rise 2 to 3% per year. Although Dominion rates have risen 30% in the last decade, so that's 3% a year. But I think we saw, due to the war in Ukraine and other global factors, that prices are going to increase 9% this year. And so a great thing about solar is you're kind of protected from that. You're kind of insulated from those cost increases of other fuel sources because you have your own fuel source. So as I mentioned here, I think 9 to 13 years is our average return on investment. I think that's based on a cash purchase. If you were to finance it, it can take a bit longer depending on the financing terms. But again, this is based on a very conservative 2% rise in electricity rates. So as electricity rates increase faster, your return on investment speeds up. And in terms of breaking down the cost of solar, what we do as Solar United Neighbors is we really help the installer bring down those soft costs, right? And so that's the money they have to spend on generating leads, right? We're getting folks like yourself that are interested in solar and educated about solar. And so that's how we're able to kind of get these discounts this competitive pricing, discounted pricing that the co-op is able to offer. Labor costs have come down, as you can see, and then the system components costs have come down tremendously. All right, so here's an example price sheet. I don't want you to get lost in the numbers. Really, I just want to tell you kind of the categories so that when you get a proposal, you'll be able to understand it and kind of know what's in there. And so we're going to look at the right-hand column, the 8 kW column, because that's about our standard, our average system size in Virginia. And so if we were looking at a panel that was 275 a watt, 8 kW or 8,000 watts times 275 is $22,000. So to say, okay, this system is going to cost $22,000. Now, the great news is that's all in. That's permitting, that's taxes, that's everything under the sun. This is not like a car or a mobile phone or something where they hit you with this and that and the other thing, and all of a sudden, a couple $1,000 more got added to the cost. Now, this is all in turnkey, $22,000. There is a 30% federal tax credit that, in essence, would bring your net cost down to $15,400. A couple important factors on the 30% federal tax credit. First of all, it's a tax credit, not a tax refund, and so you must have tax liability in the amount, in this case, the amount of $6,600. And so now, if you don't have that federal tax liability in a single year, you can roll it over, I believe, up to 5 years. This is not how much you owe in taxes at the end of the year. This is, have you paid $6,600 in federal taxes, whether from payroll, paycheck withholdings or anything else over the course of your 12 months. It's also based on when the system is installed. And so, again, as an example, we're in November. Your system, if you were to sign a contract tomorrow, would not be installed this year. It would be installed winter 2023. So that's the 2023 tax year that you would be filing, in February or April of 2024. So you take the tax credit when you file your taxes. So as an example, you might buy the solar array here from the co-op for $22,000 in March of 2023, and you might take that $6,600 tax credit in February of 2024. Just want to make sure everybody's clear on that. But in terms of the total cost, that then brings it down to a little over $15,000. And then the other return on investment is kind of the stuff below that, right? And these are really based on kind of production and on variable costs. So we have an estimated 1-year electricity savings. Again, this is based on how much you're using your system and how much the price of Dominion or your electric utility is charging. But conservatively, we estimate that at $1,100 in the first year. After 10 years, 11,700, you'll see that it's just not times 10, because again, price of electricity increases. And after 25 years, you're well over $32,000. And so that's obviously much more than the $15,000 you originally spent. Additionally, there's something called a solar renewable energy credit. And this is kind of complicated, and we have materials we can share with you on solar renewable energy credit, or SRECs. But what an SREC is, it is a voucher that you can kind of trade in the market, kind of like the Wall Street market. You, with solar on your roof or at your home, you would become a generator of renewable energy in the Commonwealth of Virginia, and that has value. Whether that's Dominion that has to keep up, or any other electric utility that has to keep up with laws that have passed in Virginia in recent years that mandate X amount of renewable energy must be procured in Virginia. And if Dominion can't meet that needs, they can go onto the market and buy, kind of take credit for the electricity you generated. It has nothing to do with your electricity bills or anything like that. It's just who gets to take credit, no pun intended, for the electricity generated. Additionally, a company like Amazon or Google or Facebook that wants to be able to tout the same thing, like, hey, all these data centers we're using or anywhere else is generated by 100% renewable energy in Virginia. They can go to you and your neighbor and me and everyone else and give us money to take credit for the electricity we've generated. So it is a credit. You'll get, it's hard to quantify, but in general, you'll get a little over 1 SREC per megawatt of your system. It's based on production, so it's not quite that. But let's say you got an 8 kW system. You might get 8 or 10 SRECs a year, and usually you can sell those quarterly. And there's SREC brokers. I think there's 3 in Virginia, and we have those on our website. And the maximum price would be $75. But usually they're kind of more in the $40 or $50 range, maybe $60 if you're lucky. So let's say it's $50, you got 10 a year, that's $500 a year. That's just kind of additional revenue and a way to pay back the system. So there's also ways you could take a lump sum payment of all your SRECs, right? Or you could play the market and see how it goes. And if you take a lump sum payment, usually your rate will be lower because you're getting kind of price certainty, or you can play the market. So we have that at 9,000 for this 8 kW system as kind of a conservative estimate. So again, these are just kind of the ways that your system's going to pay back. And as you get a proposal from Convert Solar or any other solar company, they're probably going to have these things on there. And I want to make sure that you understand what they are and kind of how they help pay back your system. So the tax credit is based on the cost, simply on the cost of the installation, right? That's pretty fixed. I spent X amount of dollars, and so the tax credit is going to be 30% of X. All the other stuff is really based on production and some variable costs. How much did energy prices increase from Dominion or utility? What's the SREC market currently trading at? And we've done our best as a nonprofit to really take conservative estimates. And so these kind of the savings and the ROI can be more significant, but this is a way to make sure that you understand this. I know that's a lot, and so I just want to pause there to see if there's any questions.
No questions about SRECs or financing. I got a more technical question, and where is it? Yeah, so Allison just wanted to know, do you have any thoughts on how the switch to solar might be relevant, specifically for those who are currently on gas? And when she says gas, she means heat, water heater, dryer, and kitchen burners.
How it might, maybe Allison, if you can expand on that a little bit, like how it might be relevant in what way. I guess I could take that question in a few different directions. And while you do that, I'll just finish up my next couple of slides, and then we'll have plenty of time for more questions. So just want to point out about the federal tax credit. Thanks to legislation that passed in Washington, D.C. through Congress back in August, the federal tax credit was extended for 10 years. And so you can see from this slide, this is what we were using earlier in the year. The tax credit was 26% for 2022. And again, it's based on the year of installation. And so you all would be looking at 2023. So before August, before the Inflation Reduction Act, the IRA passed, it was going to go down to 22% next year and then down to 0 in 2024. And thanks to the IRA, it has been bumped up this year to 30%, which is what it used to be, and it's going to be kept at 30% for the next 10 years. So that is great news for residential solar, that it's 30% and folks can take advantage of it. And then the final thing slide I have is about financing, right? If you're not able to pay cash for your system, there's a lot of ways you can finance it. Home equity line of credit, refinancing, just standard loans. The installer, certainly all the installers offer financing. Make sure you look at those like you would any other loan product, right? Like buying a car, buying a house. Really review your financing options. And then there's two credit unions that specifically focus on solar loans or clean energy loans. So there's a clean energy credit union that makes loans for solar and electric vehicles and things like that. And then there's Community First Credit Union or Easy Solar Loan, and they both really specialize in this space as well. If you are going to finance your system, we really encourage you to shop around, get a couple quotes, just like you should on buying anything, right? Like $20,000. This is like buying a car. It's not insignificant, and so make sure you do your due diligence. And so financing can be a great option. Again, the ROI can take a bit longer, but usually that just tacks on a few more years. So I'll stop there to pause for questions and see if we got a further question on the gas electrification.
We did. Allison did elaborate on that, and she said she's referring to someone who is totally electric at home versus someone who is mostly reliant on gas appliances across their home. What are the different price comparisons there if they're looking to offset that stuff by solar? And
so I guess the short answer is we're not looking at your gas bill at all, right? This is solely your electricity bill, and so your gas bill will be separate. So if you're fully electric at this point, it's kind of an easier comparison, right? Because if you were to get a proposal from Convert to say, hey, this amount of kilowatt system would cover all of your electricity needs. Well, that covers all your kind of utility needs, right? Aside from water and trash. Whereas somebody with gas heat or gas hot water, they're putting a dent into their electricity bill, maybe covering all their electricity bill, but not their heat and hot water. So it's hard for us to compare or anything like that. We don't look at gas or anything along those lines, or other utilities, water. This is really just electricity. I see from Brinley we have the consulting process. I'm not totally sure on that. I imagine they mean how long does it take to get a proposal? If that's something different, please let us know. But in general, right, if you were to join the co-op, sign up tonight, you would probably get a call from Convert Solar this week, and they would potentially, I imagine they'd probably get you a proposal before Christmas. Usually they try to, before Thanksgiving, I mean. Usually they try to do a proposal the same day that they have the phone call conversation, and so you would get that proposal fairly quickly, within the week, I imagine.
I think
so. I see.
We just got one more from Patricia. I think it's the last one for the session. But what is the appeal or appreciation at resale? I'm not sure if there is one single answer for that, but
that's a great question, Patricia. And there's been studies out that actually, I think via Redfin and some other real estate kind of companies that solar does produce value for your home, on average. Now each case is special and unique. You want to make sure that your real estate agent is aware of kind of how to market solar and sell it. And there are kind of real estate agents that do specialize in that, or at least offer that as something kind of in their wheelhouse. Obviously, if it's financed and there's still a loan on it, that can be a hindrance of some type. But in general, solar does increase the value of a home, provided it's done well. It's gonna bring someone's electricity bill down if it's fully paid for. Somebody's moving in, and in the case of a fully electric home with a solar array that covers the electricity costs, it's like, well, you can buy this house, and not have any electricity bills. And if you think about it in terms of basic financing, right? We know a home loan mortgage is usually pretty competitive rates compared to what you can get on something else. And so if somebody maybe could maybe take out a loan for an additional $10,000, $20,000, but knowing they won't have that cost of electricity bill month over month. So, in terms of cash flow, it might be better to finance that via mortgage rather than on a monthly cash flow option. And I think we have stuff on our website about that as well. But I do just want to say, I know we're just about out of time. So in terms of what you can do next, I encourage you to join the co-op. We do have a Facebook page and a Virginia listserv, and I think somebody just asked for it right there. And so Crit will
dropping it again
into the chat. Yep. We do have just about a week left, so certainly I think officially it closes Friday, but I think we're going to keep it open until Thanksgiving. But don't delay. All you got to do to join the co-op, it's free, is just kind of fill out your information, put your name in the hopper, so to speak, and there's no commitment beyond that. And then you can kind of find out if this is a good fit for you and your home and your situation. But again, I encourage you to tell your friends and family. We do this about once a year, so it'll be probably 9 to 10 months before this opportunity arises again. And never know what prices will look like and whatnot a year from now. There's been supply chain challenges and all sorts of stuff. So it's a great time to go solar, especially as electricity prices, natural gas, and otherwise are going to go up. It's a great time to get in and take advantage of these prices. So with that, thank you to all of you for joining. Thanks to Crit for all your help, and encourage you all to tell your friends and neighbors about the co-op, and want to make sure you all have a very pleasant evening.
Thank you, everyone. And just to answer the one last question, you're not missing anything. I will be sending a recording to this presentation tomorrow, and I will be including the chat section and these resources as well. So you're not missing anything. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thanks, y'all. Have a great night.